Welcome, everybody. If you're seeing the amount of laughter and ease, I'm very much invested in having a comfortable space here today. I think the times are really rough, and I want to have a warm welcome to all of you. I'll go ahead and I think get us started, at least with the introduction. I am Mel White Chen. I'm the director for the study of sexual culture at UC Berkeley, and also an associate professor of gender and women's studies. And that department is co-sponsoring this event. I want to warmly thank Fernanda Cunha and Limairi Rodriguez, who are helping to run this event and actually make everything possible. So all the social media you've seen, that is entirely them. And they're the best people to have behind the scenes at CSSC. So I can't wait to introduce Rojas and Alisa Bierria, but I do want to quickly tell you a bit about the center and welcome your future involvement. The Center for the Study of Sexual Culture has been on campus since 2004, and it's interested in all aspects of sexuality, but particularly, and I think especially these days, with life-affirming attention to the intersections, such as queer of color strategies, activism, creativity. Occasionally we have a conference. You can see some archives of our 2018 conference, Everybody This Time, on our website at csscberkeley.edu. And this year, to serve graduate students in this time of upheaval, we're having an international, primarily graduate student conference, online and free to attend in the late spring, precisely on the theme of life, which will welcome all ways in which questions of life and sexuality can be approached, from species life to survival to reproductivity in the environment, but fundamentally seeking to honor the felt immediacy right now of the Black Lives Matter movement, which started in Oakland and was formulated with Black, trans, and queer life at its heart. So stay tuned for information on that starting sometime next month. Also, the center hosts 2 ongoing working groups in disability and sexuality and queer of color theories and politics. So please contact us by email at cssc@berkeley.edu if you're interested in participating. That they're open to the UC Berkeley community, but also any member of the community. Please feel welcome to that. Our next event is a talk by Carlos Rojas. I'm assuming no relation to you, Rojas, on November 16th, Monday evening at 5 p.m. on queering the Hong Kong handover. And it's followed the next day by a queer of color working group seminar with him. Again, stay tuned for details. So there are many dream type things that are in the works, but I'm gonna just move on now since you are here to see the featured conversation. Me Too Behind Bars, Trans Queer Rebellion Across Prison Walls, Alisa Bierria and Rojas in conversation. And I consider CSSC so fortunate to have the presence of these 2 amazing, amazing people, thinkers and activists, and especially in a way where they can really be sharing with each other in conversation, right? Collaboration feels really special right now at this time. Rojas is a gender nonconforming, formerly imprisoned survivor of violence. They organized against gender discrimination while serving a 15-year sentence at CCWF in California. And they now organize with the Young Women's Freedom Center, California Coalition for Women Prisoners, and Me Too Behind Bars, a campaign to end gender-based and sexual violence inside all women's prisons in California. Rojas, thank you so much for taking the time out of your work and life to be part of this. Alisa Bierria is an assistant professor of African American Studies in the Department of Ethnic Studies at UC Riverside. She's also a co-founder of Survived and Punished, a national organization that challenges the criminalization of survivors in domestic and sexual violence. I'll add that Alisa is well known to the Berkeley community because she was a RAD associate director of the Center for Race and Gender for many years before taking a president's postdoctoral fellowship and then this professorship where she's already in high demand. I have immense respect for this person, her scholarship, and all the many forms of work she does. So lastly, to all of you, this is an incredibly stressful and violent time, and I hope everyone here can do what they need to do to take care of themselves. We're recording this event, and should you need to leave, we will have it on our website soon. Alisa and Rojas, I want to prioritize your ease and comfort and welcome you modifying this meeting at any time. And you're welcome to keep it short if that's feeling best. For those in the audience, I feel it's worth reminding, just because we're still early on in this online pandemic stuff, that Zoom is a broken tool. And while it allows us to be in some kind of place together, making this conversation possible, it can also be a place of violence. I'm thinking about the anti-Palestinian censorship recently that we've been hearing about. And it's a weird control on your presence too, so that it feels difficult for you to look away or lie down or just attend to your own being. So just please feel free to do so. And on that note, for those of you who have questions or comments, really comments are welcome. And I really hope that you can give Alisa and Rojas the satisfaction of, this some kind of interaction here. Please do place them in the chat. For those of you who are on Zoom, the YouTube chat we've disabled, and they will go to the host only. So obviously it's nice to be able to connect to others in the chat and have a stream of conversation there. But because we didn't require registration for this event, it seemed most important to actually prioritize keeping violence out where possible. And that's been happening on Zoom. So I hope that compromise is acceptable to you. And when Rojas and Alisa finished, I'll do my very best to pass these on to them when it's time. Okay, thank you for your attention. And Alisa and Rojas, I'm very happy to hand this over to you now.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you so much. We so appreciate just the love and care with which CSSC has organized this event. So I'm so thankful. It's always good to be back at UC Berkeley. Much love and appreciation to the brilliant Mel Chin and the indispensable Center for the Study of Sexual Culture for welcoming Rojas and myself. So the way that Rojas and I organized the event is that I would do some opening remarks, and then Rojas and I would be in conversation. So I'm going to get started. But before I do, let me just say that today's conversation will be engaging a discussion about sexual violence. So just so that you know as we move forward. I've known wonderful Rojas for several years through our shared work advocating for survivors of sexual and domestic violence who are currently or formerly incarcerated. As Mel said, Rojas is an organizer with the Young Women's Freedom Center and also a longtime member of the California Coalition for Women Prisoners, two remarkable organizations doing the grassroots feminist prison abolition work that we so urgently need. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Researchers and organizers have documented how the domestic violence field has become enmeshed with the criminal punishment system. Many organizations are scared to critique this partnership because anti-violence services on one hand and police and prosecutors in prisons that because of a potential loss of state funding, right? So some may have heard about the domestic violence organization in Wisconsin who put up a Black Lives Matter sign outside of their building and was promptly defunded by their county as a punishment. Okay. So that's one reason why the Me Too Behind Bars campaign, which is a campaign that was co-founded by Rojas, is such a critical and powerful intervention. Me Too Behind Bars emerged out of ingenious resistance to sexual violence by survivors who were and still are incarcerated at the Central California Women's Facility, or CCWF, which is the largest, quote, women's prison in the US. Rather than have the same tired debate about whether or not organizations that purport to be anti-rape should or partner with police and prosecutors, the Me Too Behind Bars campaign puts survivors who are targeted by those criminalizing institutions right in the center of anti-violence politics. Me Too Behind Bars also intentionally foregrounds survivors who are gender nonconforming or GNC and trans, which is a key political decision that helps to clarify how the very purpose of prisons is to violently reinforce gender norms and punish gender and sexual nonconformity. I read just a couple of days ago that one of the reasons solitary confinement emerged in the US was to prevent gay sex among incarcerated people. So it's just that relationship between the punishment of gender and the punishment of sexuality, and that punishment being a kind of carceral torture. It started at the very beginning. So Me Too Behind Bars challenges the ciscentrism of the anti-rape movement, as well as liberal organizations that focus on hate crimes against LGBT people through their own reliance on police and prisons. So this is just a few of many reasons why I believe that the Me Too Behind Bars campaign is ahead of the curve in both the prison abolition movements and movements to end sexual violence and movements to end violence against trans and queer people. I'm really excited and deeply thankful to know Rojas, who is a sharp strategist, a visionary organizer, and again, a key co-founder of that campaign. And so with that, we're very fortunate to learn from Rojas today. Rojas, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us about the work that you do at Young Women's Freedom Center, that would be great.
Okay, I'm Rojas. I use they, them pronouns in GNC. I'm the lead organizer of the Young Women's Freedom Center here in LA, also the founder of the LA chapter. YWFC provides like a leadership pipeline for women, girls, trans, and gender nonconforming people toward their decarceration and decriminalization. This like works out perfect for me. To be the lead organizer. We also are hiring a cohort of young folks so that we can train and they can be a part of the Me Too Behind Bars campaign. So like I'm excited about that. But, yeah, that's what I do at the center. And I'm an active member of CCWP. I love CCWP. We do our thing too. I try to say that.
Yes, CCWP is an incredible organization. One of the things that you do at the Freedom Center is participatory defense. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, for sure. Participatory defense is like a community organizing model for people facing charges, their families, and communities to impact the outcome of cases and transform the landscape of power in the court system, like us showing up for us, like no, like our folks they don't belong in a cage. Like we can figure it out, like on our own, like fighting for our people to stay out and us like figure out what it is that they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was introduced to the concept of participatory defense in my own work, organizing defense campaigns for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And so the idea, as I understand it, is that instead of just relying on attorneys to defend you in court, participatory defense engages members of people who are being prosecuted. It engages all of these people to participate in the legal defense of the person who's being targeted. Is that right?
Yeah, and that matters because usually like folks are believing in the system. They just think right away that what we did was wrong and they're not listening to what was happening before that. I mean, there's folks in there for trespassing because they got evicted during COVID and they're trying to get their property back and got arrested for trespassing. It's crazy. It's us like showing up for us and not just relying on the system. Mm-hmm. Just like for us to like us doing that work, like the community doing the work, and that's the form of resistance like that. But I love like show up and like see community showing up and family realizing like, whoa, my sibling doesn't deserve to be in there. Like you're right, like conversations change in the hood, and that feels really good.
Mm-hmm. So with this kind of strategy, you're able to basically take back the power of the narrative, right? Of like,
yep, we take back the power of the narrative for sure. Yeah, they paint us out to be these monsters, and like we're the worst people ever for wanting to, for just wanting to live and doing what we have to do to survive, and like us just telling our stories, like who we are in the community, being able to create social biographies on folks and not just listen to what the district attorney has to say about people. I mean, listen to that, we ain't shit, we're demons the way they paint us out to be, but that's not the truth. It's not the truth. So yeah.
We were talking last night about how there's a whole political legacy around defense campaigns. We talked about the 1974 campaign to free Joanne Little, who was attacked by a jail guard with an ice pick. And somehow she is a Black woman, she was attacked, she got the ice pick, she killed him, and the state tried to prosecute her, and they were going for the death penalty. And then this massive campaign emerged, right, with Angela Davis and the whole thing. And then we talked about the case of CC McDonald, right, who is a trans woman who was attacked in Minneapolis by people on the street. She defended herself, and she was also prosecuted for self-defense, for that self-defense that she did that saved her life, right? And the wonderful thing about participatory defense is that not only do you get to have the family members and the friends and the local community people be engaged in the defense, but it also it's a campaign. So many more people know about it, right? You get to go to the media, you get to create websites, you get to create hashtags, free CC. CC has a documentary, right? So yeah. Is that something that you've also experienced in your campaigns?
That what part of it? Just
the media, the ways in which local campaigns can become national, can grow and connect with other things.
Yeah, for sure. And we feel like we're not alone. Like that's how I understand solidarity, and other folks fight, and wanting to also support them in their fight. You feel like, damn, there's people fighting like these different causes all across the world, on Earth. I mean, damn, I was just looking at a video on ending SARS. I'm sorry, y'all. I know I'm going too far, but I start paying attention to what's going on in the world, Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Do you want to talk more about that video?
I mean, it's like you want to know more, because you feel like the conditions that you're fighting are like these fucked up prison systems. Like there's people like that are going through this time, damn, it's crazy. Like when you realize you're not the only ones, and just how much more other folks are going through things like across the world, especially Black folks all over the world. That always is something that, of course, we see all the time.
Yeah. I mean, what I hear you saying, or one of the things that I hear you saying, is that it's important, when you do a legal defense, it feels like it's like you're isolated, right? It's one court case, you're isolated, it's just you. But when you think about it politically and in a way that's participatory, you start to make the connections between this case and other cases around the country and around the world, like other forms of oppression and violence is happening. And also other organizing campaigns across time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ways work connects to campaigns that emerged in the 60s and 70s, yeah. And so
it feels like they try to hide all that from us. Like, it's like, why didn't I hear about this before? It's so empowering when you read or you watch a video on it, like some documentary, because it's like, oh, it hasn't. Well, I mean, me personally, I knew it wasn't me. It wasn't like it wasn't my situation, and that was like the gender-based violence in prisons. That's when it started. Like it was way before that. I knew that because of the stories like I was incarcerated 15 years, and me hearing the stories and just staying there that long, knowing what's happened and who has died and like what these officers did, because they killed them, you know, but those stories don't get out. But just hearing about folks' fights is super empowering, because like, damn, you feel hopeless, you know, but it didn't start here, y'all. Like, folks, our folks, we've been fighting for this, you know, and that's like, once you learn that, I just feel like it just lights a fire under your, I'm gonna say feet because I was gonna say ass, but it's like, what? You know, you really feel empowered and really want to start sending books to folks on the inside and letting folks feel that same feeling you feel. You know, like, there was folks before us fighting for this.
Yeah, I so appreciate that point, that that not only does the prison prevent us from knowing about the violence that it perpetrates, the bigger prison culture prevents us from knowing about all these other forms of resistance that's happening across time and across space. But it's there. You just have to, you know, part of the political work is finding those connections.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rojas, why don't you tell us more about the Me Too Behind Bars campaign? Why did it begin?
Like, you want to know about different projects that we're doing in the Me Too Behind Bars? Because it looks like a lot of things, Me Too Behind Bars, to be, but mainly, I mean, we focus on transgender, nonconforming, and queer folks, you know, so that we're not forgotten. But we're creating a website right now, and on our website, we'll be able to share stories, because ain't nobody listening to us. We don't have like a certain place, you know what I mean, unless we're with the abolitionists, of course, where we can share our stories and people believe us. But we'll be doing like guard mapping on our website. Like, we'll be able to name guards and different incidents that happen, because the institution doesn't share this information with us, even though they're supposed to. We're supposed to be allowed to request this information. Like, it's super hard to get it. But our website will like share our stories and different incidents that happen. It's like our way of fighting back. Like, we can still report this like to folks out here without y'all releasing the information, you know, because because grievances get lost all the time, and folks file grievances to complain against the officers. And those get lost, they lose, they do whatever they want with them. But like, this is kind of our way of fighting back. Like, hey, you know, it's not getting lost here, and we're sharing our stories here on this website, and this is what happened on this day at this prison. The website is one part of it. We're creating a pamphlet, a Know Your Rights pamphlet with the National Lawyers Guild. It'll be a resource guide for trans, GNC, queer folks inside. The pamphlet will give our folks in prison information on their rights when like assault or discrimination, including homophobia, transphobia, of course, is going on. Like, folks can know their rights, and there will be resources like for folks, like who, so their families know who to reach out to get support, to you know, fight back, file a lawsuit if they want to, just different ways to fight back.
Yeah.
And that's what our pamphlet will be. Let me see. What else? Oh, we are creating a documentary. At first, I called it a video storytelling project because it was us telling our stories. But now we got some folks that, you know, really have the experience in creating documentaries that are on board. Like, they're down to train us, for us to do the work, and us do the editing, and us cut out what we want to cut out or add what we want to add. So that's also like something we got going on. Another Me Too Behind Bars project is like us telling our stories, you know, and it's going to be recorded by us, told by us, edited by us. And I think that's pretty amazing, you know, to get on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering that this was all a secret, y'all, for years, we were like, I mean, Alisa, you know me, I've been like embarrassed, sad, like I feel all kinds of shame around talking about it, but like creating a space for us where it's like okay, like to tell the secret now, you know, like that's it. We just all decided like collectively that we're gonna do this and tell on these fucking assholes what goes on the inside and how we are. We're not just sexually assaulted like we're you know we're sexually assaulted because they want to correct us because they just hate us for being trans or gender non-conforming to damn we're weirdos and all. I mean that's a nice word to use compared to all the words that they use against us, but yeah. So the documentary will be another way to fight back, participatory defense. We have a few things going on.
Just a few.
Yeah,
it's real.
We're trying.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, transformative work, and it's just another the strategies that you're describing, the website and the documentary, and making sure that people's experiences, their own narratives of their experiences of sexual violence while incarcerated, gets represented in a way that they can control, right? But in a way that's also public, right? Which is the critical move that you're making here with the website and the documentary, because so much of sexual violence and all the other forms of violence that happens inside of prison happens behind prison walls. And so it's very hard to learn about it if you're on the outside on purpose, right? It's hard to, right? You said you're lost. That like the forums that where you sort of file a complaint around sexual misconduct, they're hard to access, and they're hard to access on purpose. So, right. And so your strategies make like basically undermine that secrecy, right, which is its own form of violence, and puts people on blast and puts the control back into the hands of the survivors themselves, right? The narrative.
Yeah, for sure. We know we're a secret. We know we're swept under the rug and all that. I mean, for me, it feels like we're thrown in the trunk and they take us off to the boonies somewhere so that nobody knows what's going on with us. It's always in a secluded area. It seems like, you know, far away from folks' families. And it's like so folks can forget about us. It feels that way. So this is a way of us saying like, we're here. This is what's happening, you know, like, yeah, saying like, fuck what y'all got going on and us putting this grievance in a box. But I'm telling folks on the outside that actually care, you know what I mean? And they can tell some more folks, but we're gonna try to put in agreements, but we're gonna let people know we're doing this, that we did it. So if it doesn't go through, at least we got folks that have our back that know like we put that in on this day at this time. So that's what feels really good, folks.
That's you know. So putting guards on blast is a way. One of the things that it does is it fights a culture of disposability of incarcerated people, right? So you can't just dismiss the violence that's happening against incarcerated people because if you're on the outside you can't see it, right? Or because they're stigmatized and you know they're not valued, right? If you kind of put the stories out there and make it accessible and put it in people's faces, then it's not just educational, right? It kind of underscores the value of people, you know, who are and were inside, right?
Yep, that's exactly what it does. It's like we don't need you to say it. We're saying it ourselves, and there's folks out here that are like real PIC abolitionists, folks that they said would never talk to us. You know, we didn't fit into the society. Like folks that I just feel like, yeah, we're doing it, y'all. Like it just feels good even me sitting up here, like with y'all, like folks. Like they say I could never be in these spaces, but like I am, you know. It's because like also the work that y'all do, and I feel like people seeing us fighting back to get our stories out, and folks out here paying attention and like supporting us. It's crazy. We're making it all happen, you know.
Yeah, and we're so thankful for the labor that you do all the time and the labor that you've been doing for all this time, which is just transforming the world for everyone. If it's okay, I'd like to turn it to just a conversation about what it was like to organize while incarcerated. So to begin, can you tell us a little bit about the trans and queer community at CCWF in Chowchilla?
Yeah, trans and queer community, y'all, we're already targeted. I mean, everyone in there, folks, when you're trans or queer, like it's like cis women can like hug each other. I've had friends, like my friend's son shot himself and died, you know, and like she was falling, I hugged her. And for that reason, like I got a write up for they call it homosexing inside, or like homosexual behavior, like she was falling, but like cis women, they're allowed to give each other a hug, or you know, something like that goes on. But if one of us hugs anyone, we're nasty. If we're sitting next to anyone, we're nasty, and it's like this abomination of, you know, they'll start. And this is not any disrespect to anybody that is religious, but they'll use that against us. You know, I know everybody's not like that, but like they're constantly trying to punish us, to correct us, and they're letting you know that's what they're doing. They are. I'm getting my ass beat and clothes taken off of me because it's like, look at your body. Do you know what you are? You know, it's like we're gonna show you what a real man is. It's like it looks like me being bent over, butt naked, stuck in between a toilet and three men, and being threatened with rape because somehow I don't got it right. This has nothing to do with why I'm in there, but it's what I look like. You know, to them, I'm just all the way wrong. Me being born was wrong. Me being me, who I am, is just we're criminalized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So your very existence, it has nothing to do, you said it has nothing to do with why you're there, but your very existence.
Our very existence, like with why we are there, like it just, like they tell me stuff like, you will never find a husband looking like that, Rojas. Like, I don't want a husband, you know, like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's what they do to us. That's like, y'all, it gets so much worse than that. Like, that's nothing. You know, our folks are getting like cavity searched, and you know why they're doing it. You know why they're pulling us out of line to get strip searched. You know, when they touch us, they do it in this like way. They're letting you know why, and it's because you're not right to them.
Right. So they're you know, they don't make it a secret about the fact that they are targeting people for sexual violence because they are gender nonconforming or sexual.
Definitely not a secret. Definitely not a secret. They let cis women on the yard know if you're around them, they try to isolate you. If folks are around you or they're your friends at all, like, then they're gonna target them. And they're gonna let the entire unit in the yard know that it's because of you. Because you are hanging around this trans or gender non-conforming or queer person, you're hanging around them, so you're going down too. They're isolating, you know that.
One of the things that's so fascinating about this last thing that you said, it brings me back to this term that you used earlier, homosecting, right? And so it's this idea that it's not, so they are targeting people because of their gender and because of their sexuality, but they're also targeting people because of relationships. And so, you know, forms of connection or intimacy, you know, if you're holding hands, right? Isn't that what is homosecting? Can you define that for folks?
If you're sitting too close is homosecting. Yeah. if you hold hands or if you give someone a hug, that's definitely homosexual. If they already have an H on your bed card saying that you're a homosexual, like, yeah, it's a write up for sure. And it's always going to be a write up, like, because that's already like, there's something called an informative chrono. And the informative chrono says that you're a homosexual. So now we have proof that anyone you hug, that means it was a homosexual act.
Right. Informative, do you say informative?
It's an informative chrono, yeah, 128.
I haven't learned about the H on
Card. Every cop shop in the prison, like every unit has a cop shop, you know, where the officers sit inside, and they have bed cards. Your bed cards, if your bed card has an H on it, that means, yeah, you're you homosex. That's what they call it. I'm not playing.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for defining that for us. And I do want to underline that the ways in which connection is criminalized, right? That's one of the things I hear you saying. Any kind of demonstration of friendship or sexual relationship or anything is criminalized. Which makes the forms of resistance that you ended up doing inside even that much more remarkable. So can you tell us a little bit about why you and your community started to resist the sexual violence that was happening and what that looked like?
Honestly, us, like, we all were sick of it. Not, I hate to say I think, never I think, never an I think in this, y'all. Always a we think. We were all like sick of it. When I said, it's like we were talking about who was going to stand up, like how there used to be something called like a group 602. There isn't that anymore. But what's always scary about the group 602 agreements is like the first name. We know that the first name is the person that was organizing. The prison knows that. Like, so it's like, who's gonna come out and say it, or who's gonna not do the group 602 and like file this grievance in their name? We know that the officers are coming, and whoever that one person hangs out with or whoever they live with, there's 812 room in Central California at CCWF, that the cops are coming. It is a scary, y'all. It is so scary. I'm not gonna lie and sit up and act like we was brave and this is what we did. It was like, holy fuck, y'all. It's like a lot of tears, a lot of hugging, a lot of we're gonna go through with this. Like, fuck it, you know, got your back. It's fucking scary because your privilege, your life, they cut your lifelines. Your family, talking to your family, that's cut. They take that privilege. Getting mail, forget about mail. Forget about it. It's never gonna happen. Like, I don't care who passed in your family, you're not gonna hear about it. You know, my godfather passed, which is also my uncle. Yeah, right. Heard months later when I family, they will take your visits. They ruin. I mean, they do everything they can to stop you from resisting, from blowing the whistle, from telling them. It's like the retaliation is crazy. So just like anyone who decides to file this grievance, just know it's scary. Just like you're like, you don't even know if they're gonna make it out, you know. And it wasn't, I'm telling you, I was already there 14 years, and it was like I have 1 year left, and like, fuck this, we're doing it, you know. And when I say we're, because it's not just me, remember, everyone that's around me will be retaliated on. Everyone, it doesn't matter. So it's like folks decided to still organize and be a part of this, and like they were sick of it. I have friends that have broken ribs, broken clavicle bones, broken sternums. I mean, folks were like, fuck that, and that were cavity searched, I don't know how many times, and there was no doctor, folks not knowing their rights. It's a scary thing, y'all. It's really,
you know, I just am blown away by your courage. I don't think I really understood that you had been there for 14 years and it was your last year where the resistance happened. That is really, that is really something. I'm really moved. Thank you so much for being so just unspeakably brave. Like it's just so, it's really incredible, Rojas. Can you tell us a little bit about the strategies that you guys use, you and your folks?
Yeah, for sure. We made logs, y'all. We documented everything that went on whatever yard, whatever unit. We started writing it down. We started meeting up on the yard or the main yard. When we heard certain services called, we would go out there, even if it was just 2 minutes. We were gonna be around each other so we could talk, pass messages. We would. I'm in prison. Remember, there's folks that are we're on levels, level 1 to 4. Like some level 4s are considered really violent, and so that's what they had me as a level 4, and like there was folks that were level 1 and that were in honor dorms, which means they have more privileges, like that were also resisting because they don't want to go through that shit. They're following the rules of the prison to get out on a life sentence that they were put there where they should have never been there, you know.
Yeah.
Just bullshit. We did that. We folks that have privileges, like where they were able to use the phone, they made phone calls for us. Like I said, passing messages, little notes, like getting little notes across the yard, like whatever. You know, it's hard to remember messages, but you gotta like tiny little notes about like this big, pass them so that they wouldn't get caught by the officers. Um, just some folks are able to send out mail. Those folks would send out the mail because, of course, if it went out in my name, it was getting read like 3 times. We had folks that worked in the law library. We had that would just share information with us. We had folks that would bring us back dictionaries because guess what? We didn't know what the hell a lot of the words meant on the grievances. So it was like, first of all, let's understand what this means. So we got really creative. You know, it's what you have to do in that place when you don't have shit, is you get creative. And to see that many folks, levels 1 to 4 working together, all we have black folks, brown folks, white folks that we didn't even expect were gonna help us, you know, like jumping in there, and it was like folks sick of it, and that it was empowering. Those are some of the different ways that we organized in there. Like, remember that when there's more than 3 of us, they call us a gang, you know, it's grouping. We could get write-ups. So like, just folks that were down to be in a little group of 3 right there, us right here, us right there, and like even like we do something called flagging, which is like we write in the air, you know, backwards, and like folks can read that in there.
Wait, what?
We learn sign language. Oh, sorry, that's called flagging.
Like,
But we have different ways to communicate, and we got to get creative, and that's what we do to organize on the inside.
damn. Okay. So what I hear you saying, there are a few things. One is that the incredible documentation work that you are doing now began inside the prison, right? And
Oh yeah.
sure that everything is written all the time, right? You know, because it's that documentation that will help you, you know, pursue different routes for accountability, right? And also just make sure that people know what happened, right? It's just a matter of.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that I hear you saying is that there was a coalition built across the levels of the prison. So even though the guards were cutting you off from your family and friends, and even though the guards did not allow you to move across the prison, you had other people who had more freedom who did that for you all and helped you get the word out and get the word across, right? And
Yep. They also made copies because they had access to copy machines, so we didn't have to write everything out. Like, these are people that were like, the cops trusted them to, you know, be in charge. They're called clerks. And these folks were really making the copies for us. Like, fuck these assholes, like they stayed in that position and helped, you know, they used it. They didn't use it like for the cops, like telling us what to do, but they used it for us against the cops. And that was like, whoa, when that happened, it like, damn, I can't even, just every time I think of that feeling, it just like pumps me up. Like, damn, everyone knows, like we all are feeling this. It's happening to all of us. It's been happening to us. Yeah.
One last question on this. You know, the folks who were in the honor dorms and that kind of thing, who were helping y'all, they if they got found out, right, they would lose those privileges. So can you tell us why you think that they helped y'all anyway, even though they were taking a big risk?
Because of all the torture they had to endure themselves, even to be in that honor dorm. First of all, honor dorms are predominantly white folks, you know what I mean? But like, it's so hard for folks, even like for folks of color to get in. But like those, so like sometimes, but like they make it in, they do that. Even like white folks, they follow the rules of the prison to get into this place so that they can leave. Remember, folks that go into the honor dorm either have like life without sentences, life sentences. Like this place, I mean, fuck, that determines whether you go home or not. So them jeopardizing their day was just like, whoa, like if they were caught organizing with us, it wasn't just like they're gonna get a write up. It was like they ain't going home. You know, the officers, they determine whether folks go home or not. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, but they did it anyway.
They did it anyway because of what they had to endure, and like a lot of folks, they know it's bullshit, but they have to get. How else do you get out and be with your family? You know, like you follow the fucking rules. When I started seeing folks coming out of the honor dorm, like making copies, even like other folks organizing with folks in the honor dorm, I was like, what? Just passing a stack of copies of like our logs was mind blowing. Or down to actually hide our logs because like they're not gonna get searched like we're gonna get searched. It's just amazing, you know. It makes you want to keep going and not stop. Like you know, it affects everyone. You know, like you're maybe sitting up in the honor dorm and getting to shop a little more and get a little more privileges, but it's happening to you as well, and you know it. You're like, fuck that. You're fighting back. Maybe you can't do it in front of their face, but you're doing it and you're making it happen with us because everybody's role like matters. Like it's like every role is huge. I don't care how small it seems. It wouldn't have happened without everybody playing a role. Wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened without everyone playing a role, and everyone wouldn't have played a role if there wasn't a catalyst. I mean, this goes back to our earlier conversation about about how important it is to know about the resistance movements that's happening across the world and across time, right? Because when you know that other people are resisting, this is again what I'm hearing you say, then it makes it so much easier for you to get your work done. So you all were already putting your asses out there, right? And it sounds to me like it catalyzed resistance in all other parts of the prison. Is that a fair understanding?
Absolutely, that's a fair understanding. That's how I understand it. Mm-hmm. You know, I had friends. I'll say this one more story real quick. That when I was trying to get to my CCWP visit on the art, even visits with my family, but this is one particular time where like folks that were in the honor dorm were out. They were in front of the program office, like waiting to go through the gate as well. They all made sure that I got through because they knew my visitor. They knew CCWP had been out there for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. You know, and they were bringing messages back, and they were like, "Nope, we're waiting for you to go through the gate." It's so crazy. I just had to say that again because, like, folks, it's their fight too, yo. Like they've been through some shit too. We've all been through.
One more question, Rojas. Why are you a prison abolitionist?
Oh, this question. Oh, this question. Because if I wasn't, I'm a prison abolitionist because if I wasn't, I would be what they say I am. You know, I wouldn't be shit. I'd just be formerly incarcerated. This is garbage in their eyes. You know, or a monster. Like I would have been like someone that had been thrown away forever. You know, like had to be thrown away forever. Like this is the only reason that I can survive out here is being a prison abolitionist. Is like knowing that folks just need things, simple things, so they don't go. You know, like folks make us out to be monsters, and we're really just hungry or just don't know how to deal with our anger. What would you do if the police could come into your house when you're a little kid at any time, just grab your parents, yank them out, take you out? But you know, I've been outside as a little kid in my underwear, like just because they were allowed to come in and get my dad who was informally incarcerated. They make us. We ain't shit. Yeah, fuck. If it wasn't for prison abolition, like I wouldn't made it out here. If it wasn't for my support, you, Alisa, my partner Colby, like folks that I have this work, I'd be in the trap. Yeah. You know, now I could see it. Like I couldn't see it before.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. It sounds like it, to me, it sounds like, I mean, there's so much that you're saying, right? But one of the things I hear is that prison abolition creates meaning in the midst, like liberatory meaning, freedom meaning, in the midst of all this violence that happens in your home, that happens in the prisons, that happens on the street, you know, like it's something that we reach for as a real vision for a world in which all this violence doesn't happen, right? In which we can create our lives without it, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, it makes my so I share this whatever I learned about abolition, transformative justice. You know, I take this back to my family. Like we're just now forgiving each other. Like it's okay, you know. Like I know why you did that. You know, like it's whatever I learned. I take it back to my family. I got a big ass family. Yeah, it's like
yeah. The work is happening inside families, inside communities, inside our organizations, inside our friendships. I feel like the way that you organize, Rojas, you can sort of see your style, the way that you put your whole person, your whole self into the work. You can see it in the story about your resistance strategies inside, and resistance strategies outside, and resistance strategies before you got to CCWF, right? It's understanding that prison abolition isn't just a theory; it's a way of living a life, right? It's a way of connecting with others. It's a
way to be in community and to find out what we need and to be there and support each other. Like it's like some folks I never seen. I feel like in my community, like when we talk, they've seen it but didn't know what to call it. Like they were doing it before, but like the system come in and they fuck all that up, you know? But like if we can name it and say what it is, we can keep on doing it, you know? Like that's what it feels like to me, you know? It's like I know I've seen things, like I've seen folks trying to do it, but then they just like, oh, the police are the best, you know, like the new sheriff's in town and some bullshit like that. And it just fucks everything up.
Yeah.
But when it's us knowing what goes on with us and us coming up with solutions together, like figuring out what it is we see, it works.
It works. It's such an honor to learn from you. It's always such an honor. I'm going to try not to cry because I'm on Zoom and that's awkward, but it's just such a, I mean, thank you so much for all that you share. I know that it's a lot of emotional labor to go over these experiences, and I just want you to know that I recognize that. I'm sure people on the call recognize that. And the gratitude is just, you know, I hope you feel it because it is overwhelming. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Alisa. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Alisa. You know, you've always helped me since the first time I was ever on a panel with you. I'm like, can I always do this with Alisa? Because you've always made me comfortable, and like always, I've always been able to talk to you on the side, and like you make it happen with me, and that feels really good. You're also part of my support circle, so I just want to say like thank you. And thank you also, Mel and everyone else on here. Appreciate y'all.
Okay, are you comfortable taking a couple of questions?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Mel.
Hey, can you see me? I am really overwhelmed listening to this conversation. It's just electrifying listening to you. This is really, really powerful stuff. And it's such a gift for you to share. I just personally want to thank you as well. I think there's a lot of gratitude in the room, but it's been we're listening to so much like that. That has been an incredibly rich conversation, and so I actually do want to just take a moment to encourage folks. Now that you can break away from just being entranced by this conversation, to put any kind of comments or thoughts or questions for Alisa and Rojas. I'm also noticing that, Alisa, we're not hearing about the work that you do that really could, you know, is really in conversation with Rojas's amazing vision and activism. So I want to welcome you to share that as well. The other thing, as we wait for questions to come in, is, I have some of my own, but I want to sort of make sure that I have a chance to say, like, one of the things we've been thinking about at CSSC is just what it means to try to share wealth and to foreground that, not only to amplify voices that need to be amplified, but really just being explicit about how it sometimes, if there is an organization that folks have money that they can donate to, this is the time to talk about it and to share that information. And so if you can direct some names our way or some websites, I just want to be explicit in welcoming both you, Lisa and Rojas, to sharing that, especially when we're hearing about all of the projects that Me Too Behind Bars is organized, or is involved in organizing right now.
Can I start, Rojas?
For sure.
Just a couple things. One is that, Mel, I just sent you a bunch of links privately. If you could share that with folks. I'm sending folks a couple of articles about Me Too Behind Bars, and particularly Rojas's leadership in Me Too. There's a wonderful Guardian profile. It was really, just the interview was really wonderful, that I highly recommend. And another thing that I'm sending is a website that Survived and Punished put up just last week called defendsurvivorsnow.org. And on that site, the site is called actually Defund Prisons, Defend Survivors. And so on that site, it makes the connections between prisons and sexual violence, how sexual violence and domestic violence are the foundation of prisons and prosecution and policing. So they are integral. So that website just gives us some pretty directed information about how to make those connections, and as well as testimonies from survivors who are also prison and police abolitionists. Because they experience sexual and domestic, because of their experience of violence, they have come to the politics of abolition. So in terms of supporting organizations, I would say, I mean, the two organizations that I personally know the best, right, is the California for Women Prisoners, which I believe the URL is womenprisoners.org, but I need to.
Are you checking?
Yeah, that's right. So that one, and also an organization that solidarity with Me Too Bars and California Coalition and Young Men's Freedom Center is survivedandpunished.org. So I really encourage folks to go take a look at those websites. There's a ton of resources. We talked about participatory defense campaigns. The S&P website has a whole toolkit about how to organize a campaign. And so, yeah, just go and the donation pages and help the organizations out so that we can continue doing the work. Rojas?
That's what I was gonna say. CCWP and S&P, like that's what I was gonna say. If folks are gonna donate, let it be to the people that are really, really doing the work, like the folks that we're really learning from, the folks that are really supporting folks that get released, supporting folks in their release, to get released. It's just, those were the organizations I was gonna name as well.
Yeah.
So.
One of the things that particularly CCWP does, but also S&P on this kind of more low-key level, is to organize volunteers to go into the prisons and connect with people there, right? And as you heard from Rojas, one of the forms of violence that the prison enacts is a kind of separate, forced isolation of people from their families and friends outside of prison. At CCWP and at Survive and Punish, we are trained to be paralegals so that we have a particular kind of access because people technically have the right to see their attorneys and also paralegals when folks come to visit. Of course, the prisons block those visits from time to time as well, but at least it sometimes exists. And I think, Rojas, is that how you connect with the CCWP?
Yeah, I had visit loss, y'all, while I was inside. I was on a 5-year visit loss. Like, they took that from me. Once they took it like for 3 years and then 2 years right after. It was back to back. There was never like an in-between time where I was able to get a visit, but CCWP was able to visit me because of the reason you just said, Lisa. But yeah, and then once I was off that, like, folks really organized and got donations so that my family that lived out of state were able to fly in and visit me. It was like, that's some shit I can never repay. It's just like, damn, that's why, like, I feel super safe around PIC abolitionists, like my folks, comrades, real folks that are like down to be in the trenches with you. Like, folks don't really understand what that means. It's not these reformers. It's not folks like that want me to have an extra tube of toothpaste on the inside, but it's the folks that know I need to be out here with my family, and that go in to see me, and that's what we're fighting for. That's what counts.
That's I didn't know that either. That's incredible.
Yes.
It just everything that you say about your experiences and your strategies shows us how important connection is to radical political organizing, right? Like it's the beating heart of organizing, and then because we're talking about prisons, you have to do all this work to make sure that those connections are happening. It's so beautiful that the CCWP fundraised so that your family could fly in so that you could talk with them and visit with them.
Yep. gave them gas money, let them borrow a car, let them spend the night at their home, like different things like that. It was crazy. Like I hadn't had so many visits from my family. My family ain't got money like that, you know. But yeah, it's just on so many levels. Just really understanding, like talking to me, listening to what I needed, and organizing around that. It's just that's super amazing. I'm just glad to be out here and be a part of it and learn from folks and like try to take this back because you're right, it is a beating heart. Like without that, we they kill any dreams and hopes that we have on the inside. But like having folks out here that are like fighting with us is what keeps us going. When we don't have that, it's over. You feel defeated with us up against this place, and they're always gonna win.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of questions for Rojas that I think are just tied immediately to what you just talked about. I mean, I think there's a lot of feeling in this room of wanting to support Rojas in all your efforts. And so there is an explicit question of like, what can we do to help your cause? And I mean, I did mention the monetary donations, but I think this is a much broader question. So I want to leave that on the table, but also get to the next one too, and just have you to sit with both of those. And it's connected to one of the questions I was thinking about too, which is just that, I mean, being trans or gender nonconforming, it can subject you to all kinds of body violence if you're free in the world, if you're not incarcerated. But what you're talking about feels like just a scale different, like so much more intensified violence directed toward gender nonconforming and trans bodies. And like even, you talk about almost something that sounds like contagion. If, right, if people who are not being targeted in this way are just sitting near you, or if you're talking to them, it's as if it's something can catch or something, and it's something that I tend to associate with race, right? But in this particular context, it just seems like um, a whole different level, and so
It is a whole different level, Mel, but I'm glad you thought of race when you thought of it, because now can you imagine being gender nonconforming, trans, and Black in prison? You know what I mean? So like folks.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think I really hear and respect all the intersections that you're talking about, right? In this, there's so much to think about, and we just cannot do single issue stuff. It just does not work. So there's just, I think that there's a question here that has to do with self-care, actually. That's faced all this violence.
Part of it is resisting y'all self-care. They don't want us to be out here having PTSD and doing self-care, like it's part of it. That's another thing we're gonna do in our when we're creating this documentary together, is like self-care, us having like healing circles and taking care of ourselves and figuring out what it is we need, and like folks that have been doing this kind of healing work, bring them in, like raise the money to bring them in to like work with us. That's another way that we're fighting back, is taking care of ourselves and not fucking ruining ourselves the way they want us to, not just thinking that we ain't shit and believing them, but that's a fight all on its own.
Yeah, and I want to mark that question was from Liat Wexler, and they also said, like, I know it can have a lot of baggage, like self-care can have a lot of baggage. But yeah. Oh, Alisa, you're muted. Oh, you're still muted. Wait, can you unmute yourself?
Oh,
all right.
no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry, I won't do that again. Just that one, I so appreciate that the person who asked the question said that self-care can have baggage. And I also appreciate the way Rojas is framing self-care, which is both politicized and collective. Yeah, and part of art and culture, because you're saying that in the process of doing the documentary, you're gonna have healing circles, right? And so it's it is care. Some of it, I'm sure, is self care, but it's also collective care. It's community care. It's care in the context of documentation. It's care in the context of representation. It's a much more it's a much more expansive concept of care, I think, is what you're saying here, which I just think is a model for all of us to follow and think about.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. That place was meant to destroy us. So for us, like this collective care, like you said, I like that, it's still us saying, fuck you, we're taking care of us, and being there. That's the only place we could be, at, only space we could be in, but like, also being around PSC abolitions, where we can say, fuck that place, this is what happened to us, this is what they did, and like figure out what it is that we need. That's the only space we got,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So care as a, telling, taking care of ourselves and each other is a fuck you to the prisons.
Fuck yeah, it's a big fuck you to that place, like they don't want us to do that. That place was built so we can go right back in. We're in a trap. We go right back in. We come right back out to our neighborhoods. Like y'all know I'm from Compton. I don't know if you know that, but like it's meant so we could go right back. What they do to us, but like me being able to stay calm and work through my PTSD, and I go bike riding and some stuff. I'm figuring it out. Us doing that, talking, communicating with each other. This is what I do. What do you do? That's us fighting back.
Yeah.
Because we weren't supposed to do that. We were supposed to be back in there.
Every time you speak, I just learn more about, like, I'm moved by how life affirming, to go back to some of the things that Mel said at the beginning, right? To how life affirming abolition is based on the way that you practice it and live it, right? That they don't want trans and gender nonconforming and many others to survive. They don't want people to survive, and therefore coming up with practices to survive, in part because they don't want to, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's just it's deeply life affirming, and it just pushes the politics of abolition, and pushes, it just makes us just be more imaginative when we're thinking about what prison abolition entails. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mel. Were there, if folks have any other questions?
How are you both doing? All right.
Good.
Getting tired or?
Unless there are any pressing questions,
Yeah, I mean, just want to quickly add to what Alisa was saying. I'm really feeling and hearing, like, Rojas, you're talking about like abolition in the body, like the healing circles. I'd love to just hear more about the documentary, but I realize it's getting late. But I'm just really feeling how abolition comes home to your bodies, right, as a collective, and that's part of what you're recognizing and working to undo and to heal. Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe this is a good time for us to close this event and give you two a well-deserved break, and with all of our gratitude for sharing your immense offerings with us. I think you've left us with so much to think about, but also a new template for how to think in daily life about abolition and how we can contribute to it. And the stories that you told, I think, were incredibly helpful for that. And so I hope they felt okay to offer us. I just want to thank you both so much for sharing your time with us in this way. And all of you who are in the audience, thank you for spending time with us as well. Please do take note of these links that we put into the chat before you go. And please do. There's no better time than now to actually just donate money to these efforts, these people efforts that are going on right now. I think I'll close it now. So
thank you so much, just
to all of you.
Just holding this, as they say, holding the space. I don't know exactly what that means, but I just so appreciate the vibe that you've created, the caring and intentional vibe that you've created for this event. I'm so thankful for that, Mel, and also to your students and the wonderful center. Thank you very much. And Rojas, as always.
I love you, Lisa. Thank you, and thank you, Mel. Like I said earlier, I really need to trust you because I know you're not gonna put me in that position, but now I feel that. Like, thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. I felt really comfortable. I know sometimes I get crazy parts, want to cry and some more shit, but it's just so much, you know. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you, your students. Thank y'all.
That's authentic. You are authentic, and that's better than most people can give us. That's really a gift. So thank you for your generosity. It's going to feel awkward to you too because we're going to end the meeting so that and then you're just going to suddenly be looking at this blank screen. So I apologize in advance, but we'll be in touch with you both after. And just huge thanks to both of you. Take care, everybody.